You're listening to a Roddenberry podcast.
You're listening to Mission Log the Orville, an episode-by-episode discussion of the adventures of the crew of the USS Orville. Welcome to another episode of Mission Log the Orville. This week, Deflectors, the one where Bortus' ex-boyfriend upgrades the Orville's Deflectors, and Kelly breaks up with Cassius. We'll discuss the meanings, morals, and messages to see if this episode aligns with the Roddenberry Star Trek philosophy. My name is Mike Richards.
And I'm Jessica Lynn Verdi. Mission Log the Orville is a conversation that depends on your participation. Please share your thoughts, ideas, and tell us what we missed at ML_the Orville on Twitter, Mission Log Pod on Facebook, or you can even email us at missionlog-the-Orville@roddenberry.com. And if you're watching this on the Roddenberry YouTube channel, hit like and subscribe. And remember, we may use your comments in an upcoming episode. Now, without further ado, here comes Mike with a recap of this amazing, positive, upbeat episode.
So upbeat, so positive. Deflectors. Prologue. Earth, New York City, 1945. The war's over, and so are Kelly and Cassius. He wants to get serious about their relationship, but Kelly's only serious about work. I mean, not his work. His work is stupid. Arriving at Moclan for a deflector upgrade, a Moclan shuttle delivers Locar, a brilliant Moclan engineer who also happens to be Bortus Kadashik, a.k.a. an old boyfriend. Act 1. In engineering, Locar and John are teching the tech, but Locar really wants to talk to Bortus, which is unlikely. Tala offers her assistance during the test. Wait, what? Did the score just hint at an attraction between the two? At dinner, Clyden seems a little jealous, but not too jealous to push Bortus' buttons a little. Locar joins the Moclan family for dinner and offers Bortus another olive branch, which goes untaken. As the Orville prepares to test the new deflectors, Ensign Turco brings a good luck cupcake to engineering, and the etiquette of Moclan breakups is discussed on the bridge. The test is a success thanks to Gordon, who dumbs it down just enough for the Moclan ship to land a few blows. It's cupcake time for Locar as he and Tala exchange an admiring glance. Act 2. Cassius is struggling hard with the breakup. Ed's genuinely sympathetic, but also relieved that he won't have to perform the wedding, as he gives the green light to finalize the upgrade to the deflectors. In Tala's quarters, Locar confides that he's attracted to her. He's one of a subset of Moclans who are attracted to females. You see, it's forbidden for Moclans to express these feelings. It will mean a lifetime of imprisonment, but he's willing to risk it if she is. Wow. That's a lot to lay on somebody. In the mess hall, Cassius is struggling hard with the breakup. Ed's genuinely sympathetic. From a distance, Tala asks about Ed and Kelly. Gordon explains that their relationship is complicated, but Tala asks, "The galaxy is so full of so many unhappy people. Why ignore something good?" She then finds Locar in the conference room examining his home planet. She got there through a little stalking. They make a little small talk, and then get right to it. It's got to be hard, living there, feeling the way you do. Locar explains that he tried to hide it from others. He even tried to hide it from himself. If he was ever to let people know, his family would be shunned, ruined. Time to take this conversation to the environmental simulator. Tala promises that they won't be seen, but they are seen by somebody. It's New York, 1945. Tala and Locar admire a couple dancing in their apartment and decide to give it a try. This leads to Locar kissing Tala, which leads to Tala kissing him back, which leads to Kelly calling Tala to the bridge, which leads to Locar going all Billy Idol and dancing by himself, which leads to Clyden entering the environmental simulator, which leads me to think they really ought to put locks on these things. At which point Clyden exclaims, "I know what you are," which leads us to Act 3. In Kelly's quarters, What's this? Who's Mr. Mystery Guest? Turns out Cassius is struggling hard with the breakup and sent Kelly a Catrudian, kind of a large, sentient, wisecracking sunflower. Welcome to the party, pal. Returning to the simulator, Locar is gone. The computer verifies that he's not on the ship, and a replay shows that he was killed by somebody who is able to disable the safety protocols and mask their own identity. In the conference room, Tal explains to, among others, the Moclans, that they were in the simulator because they were attracted to each other. It gets heated, and Tala is excused by Ed as he vows to bring the killer to justice. Act 4. Going all HR on Tala, Ed and Kelly explain that she should have known better, but regardless, she'll be in charge of the investigation. After a quick trip to see Bortus, we learn that he's known about Locar for years. But Tala should have known better. But she doesn't understand the Moclan way. She doesn't understand a screwed-up culture that keeps people from being who they are under the threat of personal ruin. She thought Bortus would be more evolved, especially given what they did to his daughter. Wow. It's Isaac's turn to tech the tech with Lamar. They're in the simulator, and they successfully recreate the image. It's Clyden. Act 5. Although Clyden was in the simulator, he did not kill Locar. He did, however, tell Locar that he was going to turn Locar in to the Moclan authorities for debasing the Moclan way of life. The senior staff all agree that Clyden had the means, motive, and opportunity. He also has a history of being a giant Captain Dick, but something doesn't feel right. Bortus is convinced that Clyden is innocent, and Tala isn't convinced that he's guilty. In the mess hall, Tala wonders if this is the weirdest thing that ever happened on the ship. Short answer, no. Apologizing to Bortus, Tala confides that she would probably kill herself if she had to live under the oppression of Moclan bigotry, which, not surprisingly, is an unforgivable crime on Moclus. One's entire family would be shamed and banished. Act 6. Tala speculates that nobody was murdered here, that Locar faked his own death, but the only way to prove it is to find Locar. She finds him using the shuttle's cloak to hide. He asks her to look the other way, but she says she can't let an innocent man be punished. She pleads with him to request asylum on the Orville, but he says more hiding, more lies. His mind is made up. He'll go home to face life in prison, but before leaving, he tells Tala that it will be on her conscience. Cassius stops by to tell Kelly he's transferring off the ship. Clyden visits Tala to thank her, and she tells him that Locar never hurt anyone. All he wanted was love, but his life is over for no reason other than Clyden's prejudice. With the white cliffs of Dover playing in the background, Clyden returns to his quarters to see a hurt and angry Bortus. No words are exchanged as Clyden walks past. The end.
That was really good, Mike. You made me laugh and then made me upset.
that one hurt. You know, I mean, it's Family Guy, right? It's Family Guy in space. It's supposed to be lighthearted and fun, right? Not take on these big, heady, huge emotional issues. If
Seth wanted to write a rom-com with Singing in the Rain, then he wanted to write a murder mystery with Cliffs of Dover.
Oh, this was part police procedural and just part just biggest part infuriating.
Totally.
Just for the the bigotry and some of the parallels that we see that I'm sure we'll just talk about later. But thank you for the kind words on the recap.
Yeah, no, you nailed it. Let's and what you're also so wonderful at is who did this episode? What's going on here?
Well, we gave David A. Goodman, who we kind of teased about being a nom de plume. Might as well have been David A. Goodwriter. We talked about that when he wrote the episode Krill. Turns out he's actually an executive producer of the show. Who knew? So I feel bad about about ribbing him back in season 1. Began his career with Futurama, a huge Star Trek fan. He wrote the episode where no fan has gone before, where they kind of rib the original series. 80 episodes, about 30 good ones. That line that's made famous.
Is that right? Is that right? That is so good.
That comes from
about 30
that
good
episode
ones.
of Futurama. But he then went on to write for Star Trek Enterprise, and allegedly that's where his collaboration with Seth MacFarlane began, as Seth guest starred in a couple of episodes of Enterprise. He went on to executive produce Family Guy and American Dad as well.
Sure.
And he wrote all of the comic books, all of the Orville comic books.
How cool.
New Beginnings, The Word of Avis, Launch Day, Heroes, and Digressions. And I would love for us to cover those maybe sometime in the future in a supplemental.
It's a great idea.
Some other episode. As well as the episode Krill, which is the one where we were given a little bit of a hard time about having such a generic name.
We were? Oh, we were giving the name of the episode. I thought we were given a hard time.
No, we were giving him
we were ribbing a good man, and all he is a good man,
and
Mike.
apparently a good writer and a very good executive producer, apparently as well. So
bring me into your opinion because you feel bad. I don't remember criticizing.
You don't remember doing it?
Maybe
you don't feel bad.
Maybe I laughed at your joke, but is that the same Pontius? I don't know. Pontius Pilate? I don't know.
We are washing our hands of that. We'll just write that off to season 1, man. We're still finding our way.
Play back the tape. Actually, please don't.
Directed by Seth MacFarlane, music by Andrew Cotty, 2 weeks in a row for that. And we also had the introductory song "Body and Soul," played by Benny Goodman when they entered the environmental simulator.
Make fun of his name
in New York. He is a good man. I wonder if they're related. Maybe it'll be like, I will get my grandfather's music on the show.
Sure.
I'm going to Hollywood to become an executive producer, and I will get my grandfather's music on primetime. Maybe that's what was said. I don't think Benny Goodman or the Benny Goodman Orchestra really needs any
help,
any product placement. Yeah, any help, any promotion.
Don't hate the name, hate the nepotism.
And then finally, there'll be Bluebirds over the White Cliffs of Dover. That was composed in 1941 by Walter Kent. Lyrics by Nat Burton. Recorded by Glenn Miller and the Glenn Miller Orchestra in 1941 and made famous in 1942 by Vera Lynn. That song was written about a year after the Battle of Britain, and it reflected sort of the hope and despair of the British people during their darkest hour in World War II. This episode has been compared sometimes to The Outcast of Next Generation, where Riker was very much in love with, kind of an androgynous species that was shunned and retrained, I think, if they showed an attraction to, I guess, any sex, since they had neither sex. Which was weird.
She was female. They were a genderless society.
Right, and she identified as female.
As a female, and she shouldn't have, essentially.
Yes. And was attracted to Riker, but who wouldn't be? Male or female?
I got it.
Come on.
I wouldn't be. I love Jonathan Frakes. That's a different story, though. Riker is not my cup of Earl Grey. So
even before the beard, after the beard, doesn't matter. Collar, no collar.
If those who aren't watching the video can't see my face, it's no. Before the beard is even worse. I don't know. It's so bad. It's such a
even like when he was a Q, like not even when he was.
I don't even know if I know that episode.
Nothing.
But,
okay, good. We'll,
I have opinions about Qs too, but that's another story for another supplemental.
Hotter Q, John Delancey or the guy from L.A. Law, Corbin Burnson.
I don't know that guy.
Okay, never mind. Oh, we'll move on.
I guess I'm not a real Star Trek fan, I guess.
You sure are.
She's a fake.
However, it's a fake. This reminded me of the original series episode Court Martial, where a guy, Ben Finney, faked his own death, and they were able to silence everybody's heartbeats until they just had the one bump bump.
I rewatched that a few months ago, and so that was exactly my takeaway too. And obviously they do it in a different way. Like, oh, he's already masked his body signs.
Yes.
But
you can't mask the sound of a heartbeat. It's very tense.
It's a very tense moment. Yeah.
Yeah. And his daughter, Jamie, who was named after James T. Kirk. That's how good of friends they were back in the day.
Oh.
Yeah. So that's some of the particulars of February 14th, 2019. And what's better than this for a Valentine's Day episode?
You know what? If anyone's at home on Valentine's Day watching the Orville, they deserve this episode.
Yeah, this would have just sent them straight to, calling that number.
Wow.
Yeah, just wow. And we had another one, earlier this season that we actually speculated, like, was this an actual Valentine's Day episode? And the one we covered with Isaac and the Singing in the Rain. The Singing in the Rain episode would have made a good Valentine's Day episode. I
imagine when they were planning out the schedule, or like they're writing the episodes. They may not know when exactly they launch, so they may not know.
Sure.
They may not know that this is going to be. But that's hard to imagine because they tend to get really good with like Halloween episodes and stuff like that. Like, but I think this is a primetime, or this is like a network television show that's not the same as like an ABC show, right? Where it's going to be on prime time, and we're going to do TGI Thursdays, and we're going to make sure it's the
must-see TV.
This is just a procedural or episodic. Episodic. That's just like, oh, it just so happens. I don't think Star Trek ever made sure it aligned with the dates too.
I think the only one they did when the original series was Cat's Paw did play on Halloween.
Oh, did it? Was that?
Yeah.
And that seemed purposeful. Which one is Cat's Paw?
Oh, it's so good.
I'm sure I've seen it.
There's a castle, and I don't even know their names. There's like a tiny little enterprise that they dangle over a flame, and there's like a wizard and a witch and stuff like that. Yeah. So good. It was the first episode filmed with Walter Koenig.
I was going to say, it sounds like a Chekhov episode.
Yeah, the very first one. So it was filmed first in season 2, but not aired until Halloween.
Oh.
Yeah, but this, I think I personally am delaying maybe a little bit because this episode was tough, man. And
we have to focus on the good things right now.
We'll make a couple of light observations, but
let's do that.
I don't want to do this. So, they were talking about dancing. They went to the environmental simulator. They, meaning Tala and Locar, and they observed the couple dancing. And there was the comment made by Locar that dancing on Moclan is much less restrained. What do you think they got, man? You think they're
It's a good question. So I
think they're doing some slam dancing. You think they got a mosh pit? You think they're they think they get the wobble wobble wobble? What's going on there on Moclan?
That's a good question. It's clear that there's not a lot of sensuousness in their dancing, is what I think what he's trying to say, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And honestly, the way she describes, like, it's a physical cue and things like that, the way that I don't know that I've ever danced with anybody. I have, but not like that I was in love with. I never danced like a waltz with someone that I was in love with, where you had to forcefully be slow and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm thinking just full on slam dancing. Probably some latchcoms out there being tossed around. Also,
sure. Yeah, they probably bump into each other a lot.
Yeah.
Sure. Let's just say that's what it is.
But it was a nice moment, with her teaching him to sort of create or take advantage of or be acute, open to those nonverbals, those subtle physical cues, I think is how she put it.
Yeah.
And that definitely did lead to him kissing her.
So it's funny. I'm so glad you pointed out that the music did a sting to make us think that they might be attracted to each other, or that he might be attracted, because otherwise it's hard to tell with the restrictions of their prosthetics.
Yes.
It's hard to go like, hey baby, but we did need at first I did not know that this was going to be about them. They both didn't really portray a lot of...
I thought it was going to be about a deflector upgrade. I thought we were going to check the tech for an hour. We are going to have a successful deflector upgrade, and that was going to be it.
There was a total red herring, too, in the fact that the Moclans hit us with a torpedo, where it's like, oh, we're going to engage in war right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, not that I begrudged how this episode went, it's just, I don't know if actual chemistry was there. Once we knew that, what's the Moclan's name? Locar was attracted to Kiali. I actually could feel it from him. With her, I don't know. She's a little bit. She's a
little stoic.
She's a little stoic. That's probably the
and I think shocked also. Like I said, I mean, the first real conversation they had, other than, "Hey, do you need my help?" "Yeah, I'm probably gonna need your help with the security overrides." "Cool. Want a cupcake?" "Sure." Next thing you know, he's in her room, laying it all out there, man.
Which is problematic.
A little bit.
But at least I'm glad that she just doesn't care and she says that, right? Like, It's very good. Speaking of cupcake, when the hottie with the body offers a cupcake, I have given you my answer. She's like, okay. That is probably one of the funniest moments in this whole season for me.
I liked that scene. I liked Lieutenant Dan also, again, trying to make us like him. Tractor beam engaged, with the tiny Orville. So he's totally on brand. Ensign Turco, who we're seeing more of, is, as much of a ray of sunshine as ever.
My guess is Seth is dating her at this time.
So she's getting more lines?
It's my guess. She kind of has... I was going to say she's going to have Ensign, what's-her-face vibes from TOS, but Janice had more to do.
Yeoman Rand?
Yeah, Yeoman Rand had more to do.
Yeah.
But there was a couple characters you're like, oh, I kind of recognize that person.
Right.
But I have a feling that, like...
So if he is dating her now and Ed had to deliver the line, "Look, we're not trying to go all HR on you," I would have loved it if Jessica's was like, "I would imagine not, Seth."
Art imitates life, Mike. Life imitates art. Listen, he literally had to write a whole episode of getting rid of his ex-girlfriend, and everything he delivered to Alara is basically like, it's not going to work out. Sorry.
Hey, it's...
I couldn't even imagine acting in that episode when we were, at home. I couldn't even imagine. Everything was tinged with, well, we don't want to work with each other anymore.
And also based on when this script was written, there's some indications that it was written as a Alara Katan episode. That with her troubled love life and now being offered a romantic endeavor, that she was sort of swept up in that, and then it sadly didn't end so well.
That's a really good observation. You're totally right. That it also makes for a very good observation. It makes for a good episode to get us to know Tala Kiali.
I think it worked out well with her. I really did. We got to see a really strong side of her.
Well, that was exactly the arc that we were getting set up for with Alara, was that she couldn't date anybody. So I think I had mentioned previously in A Happy Refrain when Gordon's with John and going, can you just boost her up the da-da-da-da, make her go a little bit faster? I feel like it was leading us to this episode with the deflector upgrade. I felt like, in a sense, like they had been thinking about upgrading the ship in general.
Right. They've been on the ship for a little while. They kind of know where it needs, where it needs some improvement. Yeah.
So I feel like that's what I was trying to say. Like, while this wasn't a C plot, in some ways they were getting us ready for this episode.
Yeah. Maybe they can squeeze more than a quadrillion decisions every nanosecond out of the ship's computer. Perhaps. And I don't have a lot more other lighter side to talk to. I think the episode was done well. I think it was really good as far as light things go. Man, the only thing I have to say personally, unless you want to talk about anything else, is, man, I hope Bortus remembers where Clyden put the divorce dagger.
I remember we were talking also about the tenseness of Bortus and Clyden at the orchestra too, and I think I forgot how this episode reflects on Bortus and Clyden, because I was like, oh, they're just working through it. Man, Bortus needs to stab Clyden.
I get that he, and of all the Moclans that we've seen, I mean, not obviously, but I love that Bortus is open to evolving. And I think that is very admirable coming from the culture that he comes from. And I think Topa is a really cool kid. Now, will they get ruined by the Moclan culture over time? I don't know. Right now, as a adolescent Moclan, just cute as could be, curious, seems non-bigoted, seems open-minded.
Right.
And I like that. But Clyden is just intolerable. And I think has been for me for quite some time.
And again, and this will fall into the morals, messages, and meanings conversation of it all, because it's just like you can't blame someone that was born into a society and then you believe them. You trust the society's ways. I wonder if working on a union ship for Bortus was already an indicator of his open-mindedness. We learn that when Bortus was dating Locar and he was cheated on by Locar, and Locar was dating a female or whatever, went down to the planet, and at that, however many years ago that was, he already had a moral leaning towards, well, I want him to be happy, and I'm not going to turn him in, right?
And he was also in the Moclan military at that time.
So it says something about just...
Might that have been the trigger that said, I'm going to go maybe to some folks that aren't so closed-minded?
Totally. So I think it brings up the question of, which I love thinking about this in general, and I think we should jump to morals and decisions, but I'll finish with nature versus nurture. So I wonder, because I'm going to say that Clyden is bigoted because of his nurture, and Bortus is open-minded because of his nature, and Topa really only knows the union ship and is contending with these two polar opposite parents. So I think even though this will screw them up in a way, what kind of kid am I going to be? He's being exposed to a very different lifestyle than he would be on the Moclus.
I think you're right. We'll let's talk about that on the other side of the transition.
Hey, I'll see you there.
So we're back. Am I back?
Okay.
Are you back? Okay. So we're back. In this session, we're going to talk about the moral and ethical decisions, and we're going to talk about the big ideas in the episode, Deflectors, and discuss the meanings, morals, and messages, see if they align with the Roddenberry Star Trek philosophy. I tell you what, we were talking about nature versus nurture, and since you brought it up, and it's not even in my notes, I think it's an interesting argument, and I think that the nature versus nurture thing really, really comes into play in my mind when it talks about things like talent and ability, and those sort of things. That's very much nature. Like what gifts, what attributes, what were you born with? What innate abilities are you born with? But when it comes to attitude, when it comes to bigotry, when it comes to prejudice, when it comes to homophobia, or in this case, heterophobia, all of that, in my mind, is 100% nurture. I don't think anybody is born with those things.
Right. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm racking my brain to understand, to categorize tribalism, which is a big problem of our instinctual nature today, and it colors a lot of our behaviors around people that are other, right?
Right.
So if you're telling me that the Moclans felt at some point in the onset of their culture that they could only procreate because they were male, and they figured out how, you know what I mean? And then they adhered to, they made strict rules. If they were only an all-male species, they wouldn't have had to make rules. that you're only going to be with men.
Correct.
There's something to be said for that, right?
Yeah. So there's some other indication that they shunned and buried the female perspective in their past.
Something, but again, it might have so few females at the time.
Sorry, I'm still trying to win that argument from About a Girl. So
it's all encompassing, right? So this is where, Ed at the end of the episode goes, how much longer can we?
Yeah.
Not come toe to toe with these people. So
right.
It's a tough subject. It's a tough episode. But what I'm trying to get to is, if procreation meant their livelihood, as it normally does, and their tribe said we must only be with males or male, then it would make sense that the laws start reflecting that, right? Then it would make sense that the people's attitudes would start reflecting that. So while I agree that the bigotry is cast onto these people because of society, there is still a shame factor that's triggering the tribalism that we're scared of. So like if I go against, my tribe, they're going to outcast me, and that usually means death. That usually means I will not survive because I am outside of the tribe.
Right. So if you look at our history, there is a instinctual need to continue the species.
Right.
And that's why we think of heterosexual relationships as furthering that and being, for lack of a better term, normal. And I apologize for using that word. I just can't think of anything else on the spot. And thinking of relationships that do not procreate the species as being either abnormal or undesirable for that one singular goal. It was probably at one point in our history, I'm sure, a survival mechanism or a norm that was considered important for our survival. I think we're beyond that. So
we are, but that doesn't mean we are beyond that, and we are entering an age of our we are adolescent beings.
A dangerous, savage child race.
Really,
Jessica.
really, and truly. We just think that we're so much more evolved because our brains are so high functioning in some senses of it.
Oh my God, so high functioning.
We're so great. So I don't want to lose my train of thought though with this. So apparently, anthropology. I'm sorry. Anthropology is difficult because a lot of it's still. It's hard to scientifically prove a lot of anthropology in some senses, or like the instincts that we feel. But there's some claims that sex has started to evolve to feel good for us and pleasurable because of that very same thing. We wouldn't have done it otherwise because we're like, well, I don't fucking want to have a baby. Excuse me.
Because gross.
I don't want to have a baby. I'm busy, So the somewhere along the way, we evolved to enjoy sex so that we would actually do it.
So that we would all, accidentally knock somebody out.
Correct. Honestly, that's not like 100% proven in science. That's a theory.
Sure,
whatever.
it's a theory.
But
I'll buy it.
This is where I get cynical when it comes to religion, or of course there was a Bible. Of course there was a Bible saying, don't sleep with the dude. We need to further the culture and the people. You need to have babies, So right. A lot of what was decreed in the Bible in the Old Testament necessarily was to keep the society functioning as they saw it at that time. And by the way, homosexuality, I think, is mentioned once or twice, but sleeping with an animal is mentioned 500 times. So we've just decided as a society to use and pick the Bible for what we want. There's people who can justify the most disgusting choices in life by saying the Bible said this was okay. So that's a different conversation for a different episode.
It is, and this came up last week in my research for our episode that we did last week on the kind of the office relationship between Isaac and Claire, and she went to Kelly and asked about that. And we talked about, is there a rule book? Is there a union, a planetary union rule book on whether or not to do this? And then the question was, does it matter? I mean, as I was researching for that episode, I came along a really, really cool line in an ethics document that said the ethical person doesn't need a rule book to make the right decision. I don't like that. You don't like that?
I love it. It's great. Okay. I just am sad, and now I'm wondering if I'm ethical.
Yeah.
No, I think I'm not as evolved as I'd like to be, because I'm like, well, I know I'm doing things I shouldn't be doing.
Right, but that's the start.
I guess.
I just think that when people go to the rule book, whatever rule book that may be, to get the decision or to get a ruling, they really ought to know whether what they're doing is right or wrong ahead of time.
Well, so I guess that's it. That's it. This is where, again, maybe we are talking more about religion than I realized. I always wondered, how do you teach ethics? Based off of what shared agreement does ethics come from? I don't believe in some of the ethics that the Catholic Church teaches in anymore, but I also do believe in some of them that they teach. But right. I want to believe as a society we're beyond the need of religion. I will walk that back. I would never take away what religion does for somebody that gives them faith and comfort and something to believe in. I would never. I would just the same way I wouldn't want anyone to take away my cats. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like. And I know that might sound like a joke, but truly, my cats give me comfort, or you know, we all find it in different places. So I would never take that away from somebody. It's the evangelizing and the condemnation of other people that really get to me. So one of the things I really don't have the answer for, but posit this question or share with you, is since I was raised with a lot of religious overtones, where would I have become an ethical person had that been removed? And I know that there is like an inherent goodness in most people that aren't born sociopaths, right? Or aren't born psychopaths, which those people exist too, and that's tough. You know, they're not bad. They just are what they are, and and their understanding of ethics and morals are very different for us, or they just don't experience empathy in the same way.
I think it just comes down to, are you hurting anybody else? And can you justify your decision and your actions without feeling shame or having to lie about it? Great. Can you stand up and say, I did this because I thought it was the best possible course of action? And I think that's very much where ethics comes from. And
how do you share that with the society, though? How do you get that message across? Like, again, I understand that someone said, here's a Bible. God said this, everybody. You got to do it. Yep. You know, how do we do that today? How do we get, where do we get the agreement on how to live a healthy societal life?
That's a really good question, because that is about the time when monotheistic religions started to pop up around the world, when communities start to gather in groups of about more than 150 or so.
Right.
There were too many people to kind of manage individually, so you had to come up with these normative rules that people from not only your village followed, but from other villages. And you said, like, hey, if you follow these rules too, you must be good, because we follow them also, and now I kind of know what to expect, and I can trust you. How do we do that now? Boy, we have a kind of this worldwide network of communication that sure would seem to be the right tool, although it does seem to kind of make most of us regress in the wrong direction, I've seen.
Well, yeah, I think you're right that this eventually does. It could eventually become a tool for that. And I'm obviously asking you a question that's a very hard question to answer, because I contemplate it a lot. But then if we are in our adolescence, then internet is in its baby. You know?
Oh, yeah.
So it would make sense that it's being abused in a lot of different ways. Yeah, it's the thing that actually the thing that bugged me the most in this episode, despite the morally gray of it all, you know, Kiali's trying to do the right thing, and she does. Ultimately, she doesn't want to.
Right.
It sucks. The choices that she's been put into place. Right. Like if it was Ed. And it was Kelly on the other side, he would have just let Clyden die, right? Or something. Like, we would have seen... or not die. We would have seen... Clyden would have gotten to jail if if Ed had to protect Kelly, right? Maybe. Like, we've just seen him make
we have
gray.
We have. And even this whole Moclan alliance is morally gray. And they even both, Ed and Kelly, both admit to that at the end. They're like, how long can this alliance stand? She goes, well, the Federation, the Planetary Union needs the alliance.
Yes, and we'll find out even more so why in the next episode. The thing that really bugs me, and it's such a stupid thing, is Ed's like, you should have known to have told us.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry.
I just started dating this guy. I just went on the first date.
It just happened. It wasn't even a date. It was a walk and
let me register
and a spurious dance at the moment.
He was so wrong. You're supposed to assume that he's right because it's the captain saying that and he's insistent upon it. I don't think he's right. It's totally wrong to put the buck on her. I think
right.
So. That's what I think.
I think so 100%, especially when it was Kelly that had to talk him into the reasons why them dating was a bad idea within a work environment. And yes.
It just was tacky. Again,
I think when you started with, we don't want to go all HR on you. We've had this conversation before. You're kind of going all HR on them.
Yeah, and again, that's the hard thing when you're the leader. It's like you're still trying to be friends with people, and So you do have Ed and Kelly. With the galaxy being full of so many unhappy people, should they be ignoring something good, or are they doing the responsible thing by either just flat out not dating or putting it off or missing this opportunity at reconciliation? The romantic in me would be like, yeah, you're totally right. Like I want to agree. I want to say that. But our brains are so much more complicated than that.
Yeah, they are. And I think we're getting a sign right now with those church bells going off in your background.
That church is so far away and it's so loud. That just tells you how loud that church is. And don't get me wrong, every morning when I wake up and I hit the floor and the heels of my feet sizzle and the devil's like, let's go for it. I'm like, I would love to say that timing isn't a factor. I love that Seth MacFarlane's a romantic and he writes it into his shows and stuff like that. Even though he'll never settle down, it's like it's really contradictory. Like he's like a super playboy at this age and talks, loves romance. Actually, that's not contradictory. What I mean is that there's not a lot of commitment, right? In what he's and I think of romance as commitment in some
Now
ways.
he does. He has had a share of partners that we know of, but maybe he's kind of just the Ted Mosby of Hollywood. Maybe he is that true romantic, and other the ladies are just like, whoa, hey.
And I certainly don't want to. Don't want to assume that, right? And I don't want to paint this whole picture on him. So I do want to be careful about that. But I guess we are seeing the example of, yes, timing is there, the proximity is there, the closeness is there, all of it. But sometimes it just doesn't. Sometimes the timing is still wrong. Sometimes, even though sometimes she says it so well, the galaxy is so full of crap, right? It should be like obvious, like this is really good. This is the one good thing. But when we are in pain, or when we're not ready, or when things are confusing, or whatever, you don't know that the whole world is in pain. You just think you are, and it's really hard to look past that lens.
And I think that was the line, that was the realization that made her stalk Locar, find him in the conference room, use her security clearance because she knows where everybody on the ship is, and chat with him, and head into the environmental simulator with him, which kind of triggered some further events, including her showdown with Bortus, or her conversation.
Wow.
That was intense, man. I was.
She was completely over the line.
She was. And I think that it was frustration on her part, maybe not being accustomed to the level of closed-mindedness of the Moclans. When she said, I don't understand a screwed up culture that keeps people from being who they are under the threat of personal ruin, and that she thought Bortus would be more evolved. Now, I think the line, especially given what they did to your daughter, was completely over the line.
That's what I mean. She stepped over the line with that. It's almost like she was trying to get a rise out of him.
Yeah.
And maybe there was a reason, but we also don't know her well enough to know that, like, actually, here's a thought experiment. Picture Alara saying that.
Mm-hmm. I think she would have had a little bit more background, a little bit more street cred to be able to make that comment, since she was there for that.
Right. But is it still a good card to play, you know?
I think it's too painful. I think it's borderline mean.
She wanted to be mean to him, though. She really, you know, I guess we have all said things in the heat of the moment, or trying to get the reaction or the things that we want. It's just cruel, and he showed a lot of restraint.
Yeah.
Even though he was like, rah, rah, rah.
But as stoic as he is, and as I don't. And again, I was kidding last week when I said I don't know if the Moclans are trying to be Vulcans or Klingons or the bickering O'Briens, but they're that level of emotion I don't think I've seen from Bortus.
No,
before.
I don't think so either.
Okay.
I mean, we've gotten to see his wonderful range of acting, you know, and God, like, that's a scene that you like. It reminds me, like, in high school doing a 2-person scene like that, you know, and you relish those opportunities, like, you know, you do, you like love that moment. And so that's what that moment reminds me of. It's like, oh, I remember when I did a scene like that and I got to get that mad.
But I think I understand why maybe they're so restrained, and it has to do with a line that Locar said in his conversation, one of his conversations with Tala, when he said, on Moclus, mediocrity is the only behavior above suspicion. So you will not be suspected of anything if you kind of hide in the crowd. If you hide in the middle, if you go along to get along, cooperate and graduate, that does not do a lot to encourage creativity, innovation, progress, personal excellence, inspiring other people to be better. You just want to hide in the crowd because you don't want to get in trouble for being different. And
but then how does he become the best engineer? Or is it because he channeled his feelings to that? You know, like, then how come they are a spacefaring society if that's what's valued? And I guess that's
a good question. And I guess you can probably maybe push the envelope just enough. And maybe, or you're
being told that this is what you need to do or whatever.
Yeah. Like, and I think professionally, maybe that's a adequate thing to do or acceptable thing to do. But I think personally, his line may have applied to your personal life.
Sure,
is to just sort of hide in the middle.
I think the thing that frustrates me, and this is not explicit in the episode, but it's implied. Very rarely do these rules that society has to adhere to apply to the people that are enforcing those rules.
Yes.
And I love to entertain a healthy amount of skepticism, especially when it comes to our culture and what we're being told we can't do. And, you know, obviously we want to be able to trust the people that are above us, but it's very hard to, especially when you can kind of think about, like, yeah, you have all the money in the world and you're doing exactly what we're doing. It's hard to imagine.
Yeah.
It's not implicitly said that, like, okay, no one else can date females, but God, who knows what the rest of the society or the leaders of the Moclans are doing, you know? Anyway, it's neither here nor there. it's more a reflection on our society that kind of bothers me, is like, how many senators are in the closet? How many House of Representatives, their mistresses have abortions? You know, there's just things that the rules don't apply to certain people, and in general, it's...
And that's the kind of thing that you shouldn't have to look at a rule book to make those kind of decisions. Like, getting back to our conversation before, just simple things like that. If one is enforcing rules, enforcing a way of life on other people that they do not adhere to themselves, then that's just wrong. And I don't need a rule book to look that up.
Right. One of the things I think about, specifically in America, when we're like, you should not have an abortion, you should not be gay, or whatever, like some people that are quote unquote Republican or conservative may not agree. They actually may feel like closer to the middle, falling more closer to the middle. What I really think is they've made those talking points so important so that while they're busy doing other things, we're busy bickering about these things that actually don't matter. It's kind of like, this is what my hand's doing over here, but don't watch my lips. And so that's the thing that usually frustrates me. It's like, go have sex with whoever you want. And I'm not suggesting, and I'm sorry to bring up abortion lightly if it seems that way. I don't. And I'm not, a lot of people go, well, women use abortion as birth control. No, they don't. They don't. And the majority of third term abortion is because it's either going to kill the mother or the baby. Right. And it's not like, oh, you know what? I've decided 7 months into this pregnancy, I'm ready to not have the baby.
We're going to go vacation next spring, and I don't want to have to bring a baby.
Case. So, and of course there is the one girl who's like, I shouldn't have gotten pregnant, and I, you know what? I'm not ready for this, and that is in the, you know, emergency birth control or whatever, what have you. But if we have state officials making regulations as to what I can or cannot do, I'm not paying attention to actually what's happening. I'm not paying attention to the bigger decisions that they're making about my livelihood that have nothing to do with that. Nothing to do with who I'm sleeping with.
And that's what all those wedge hot button issues are about.
Just to keep us busy.
Yes.
That's my opinion.
No, that is a good opinion, and I value your opinion, especially from a women's rights and reproductive rights point of view, because we obviously, I cannot put myself in your position, but I do love to hear what you have to say.
It affects everybody, you know. I guess like again, it does affect everybody, and I appreciate your like going, oh, what's your perspective, Jessica? But that decision doesn't just affect one person, you know. No. So all of our perspectives are valuable when it comes to that. But if we're missing empathy for someone else's situation, then I think we've failed in a sense.
I agree, and I'd like to talk a little bit about Tala's empathy and the position she was in and the decision she had to make when she found Locar hiding in the shuttle, using the shuttle's cloak to hide himself. He pleaded with her to just let him go, just look the other way, and she said, "I can't do that. There's an innocent man in the brig that will get convicted of murder if I let you go." Mm-hmm. And she obviously couldn't do that. And Locar's response was, "Innocent. His heart is full of hatred and cowardice. There is no innocence there." Probably still would not justify him being accused of murder, since he did not murder anyone. So I thought that was somewhat out of line right there. And Tala pleaded with him to request asylum on the Orville, that he will grant it. And his response was, more hiding, more lies, as he is literally standing there hiding and lying.
Yes.
So I reacted to that sentence with just anger.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, here you have somebody who you dragged into your situation, knowing the consequences, knowing where it could lead to, him being the one that is familiar, that does understand Moclan culture, and then she offers him a way out, and he accuses her of being the one without integrity, I was angry at that. And not because I thought it was a bad episode or poorly written, probably because it was so well written.
Sure. In some ways, by him behaving that way, we feel better for Tala to move on from him, because you're totally right. To flip on a dime, you were hiding.
And lying.
And lying. And then on a dime, you flip and go,
right.
I will not lie and I will not hide.
Now, if he had said, no, this is on me, I brought you into this, I have to take responsibility for my actions, I need to go home, make sure that my family doesn't, bear the burden for my, I'll say, actions, then that would have been understandable. But to flip and say, I'm not lying and hiding. Well, yeah, you are.
Well, and we don't, just because, this is what's interesting about romance in TV and film. When we see two people fall in love, we're like, oh, those are perfect people. And then you get a movie like Blue Valentine, and like, wait, they don't end up together? I don't understand. And we have no idea what kind of person Locar is, but then we're seeing it. He's okay with framing an innocent man. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't, he's okay with, like, taking off. He's like, in some ways, we do need him to be a little bit dense like this for Tala's benefit. But
the thing that made me just absolutely done with him, just done. And I am no less, grossed out and appalled by the Moclan civilization that puts people in this position. But when he said, if I am condemned, it will be on your conscience. And I just, like, I had to edit my recap because there was an F and there was a U at the end of that paragraph, because how dare he? Once again, that should have been, this is my responsibility. This is my decision. I will go, if that's what he decided to do, to go and live within the confines of that bigoted, close-minded culture that is the Moclan culture. If he decided to go back there and stand trial, that's on him.
Yeah.
He put her in the position to where she had to decide whether or not to condemn an innocent person or find somebody who committed a crime, which is framing somebody else and faking their death. And he's going to put that on her. Once again, I've got 2 words for you.
Captain Dick. What a good episode to give us the opportunity to talk about really hard things, really hard choices. This is one of the most morally gray episodes, and it all has been. The more morally gray episodes have been Moclan episodes, right? Right. Which I think, if I understand writing well enough, especially when Ed and Kelly are talking about how much longer can we be with this society, I think we're going to see some big fallout with Moclan.
Is that a little? Is that what they call foreshadowing?
Yeah, I would.
Or does
say
that go
so.
as strong as prophecy?
Both. It depends on who's writing the next series or who's paying for it, which is interesting because I'll share my fully formed thought for next week's episode, with all this foreshadowing, and then to surprise us with a different twist. But I think we will see a lot of this fallout come to a head. We're definitely getting critical mass with the Moclan Society, for sure. And
again, this, the reason why I think I had such a strong emotional and critical as far as like critical thinking response to this episode is because it was well written and it did pose a lot of important questions. And this show, like Star Trek and other good science fiction, isn't about the future. It's about looking at issues from a global perspective. It's about us right here and right now. And if we can, kind of really kind of move forward a little bit, and I'll just give you what I got out of this episode from a morals, meanings, messages standpoint. Is how dare people get in the way of somebody finding love? How dare people judge somebody else in a world, in a life that they don't understand, in shoes that they haven't walked a mile in? Good Lord. When Talus said, he didn't hurt you, he didn't hurt anyone. All he wanted was love. And his life is over now because of your bigotry. Get over it. Please. And I know with the listener demographic that we have, that I'm very much preaching to the choir right now. But if there is a bigoted bone in your body, or if you have any hatred or any loss of sympathy or empathy or compassion for somebody who's different than yourself, get over it and let them live their life. Let them find love with people that they choose to love. If it doesn't affect you and it has no bearing on you, just get over it.
It takes a lot of self-awareness to be able to even recognize that you're bigoted, too. It's hard. And I think you're right, Mike. Thank you.
And I thank you.
So does this align? What do you think?
Absolutely. I mean, this is shining a mirror on us and making us aware of our shortcomings and our inability to understand, empathize, and show compassion for other people. And it's probably done better than possibly any episode of the Orville so far, and many, many, many episodes of traditional Star Trek that I've seen, which is all of them.
Oh, you've seen all of Star Trek.
I've seen all of them. I've listened to every episode of Mission Log. I've seen every movie, every TV show, every animated series. And I've listened even once by accident to an episode of the Lido Deck that showed up on the Mission Log feed. So, I consider myself somewhat well-versed. Although not as well-versed as David A. Goodman.
Oh, what a
because he is a big fan. He might as well be David A. Big Fan.
Oh, Mike. You always get me. You always get it.
I try to. And how you? Do you feel like this episode aligns?
I think it's, yes, it's a strong yes. I think probably more than any episode, even about a girl up to this point. We're getting into the weeds of many different opinions and how there really is no right answer, but even sometimes the right answer kind of sucks. Something I want to reflect on really quickly before we go is I feel like Star Trek has always had a hard time finding like really threatening enemies. Like some of the best enemies that people would point to are Khan, and there's a reason why Khan is a great enemy, and it's because we know so much about his background. We know how he feels, and I think it's really smart that in many different instances, we get to really learn about our future enemies, our current enemies, or learn to hate these, or learn to want to fight against different cultures on the journey with the Orville. So I think that we're doing a really good job. They're really taking a note from Star Trek's page and going, how do we not just throw in a new race and hope that they're menacing? How do we actually go through the journey of watching us disagree with a culture and have to go to war? So I think they're doing a really good job with that. So that's just something I wanted to point out.
I think so too, and where original Star Trek was kind of written so that this enemy race would be a metaphor for these guys and a different allegory for other people. Seth even said, "I don't know who these people are. Like, are they us? Are they them? Are they part us? Are they part them? Are they from this part of the world or that country? I don't know." He's like, they just have aspects that sound interesting, and they just kind of keep bouncing around. And I think the more that I see, I would say kind of the two main, alien races in this show that are problematic. It's the Moclans and the Krill. Is there anybody else out there yet as of right now?
No,
I mean,
not that we know of.
Yeah, we know the Kalons are kind of arrogant. And we know the other people like to put people in zoos, but they were kind of, they were one-offs. But I see those, and I see honestly, I see more aspects that remind me of who we are than I think I ever saw in other Star Trek antagonists.
Which makes for a really impactful and poignant storytelling. I'm going to say this too. I bet you Seth does know what he's reflecting. He's just saving his ass as a he's just.
And I was trying to save my ass as a podcaster too. That's why I kind of left it open.
I'm just saying he probably knows. He doesn't need to say it out loud. And at the same time, it does reflect things that we can all relate to. So yes, this is a Star Trek, morally Star Trek aligned episode.
Alrighty, very well then. I will close off by saying Mission Log the Orville is produced by Roddenberry Entertainment. Executive producer Rod Roddenberry. Our website and your opportunity to comment and connect with us is podcasts.roddenberry.com.
Join us next time on Mission Log the Orville as we discuss in its entirety Identity, Part 1 and 2. This is a Roddenberry podcast. For more great podcasts, visit podcast.roddenberry.com.